The world's biggest serial killer would probably never have been caught if he had known how to operate a computer. It is astonishing to think that a person is committing serial killing who is also a friend of his own victim, is also a well-known name in the city, and on top of that, is also a doctor. This is the story of Dr. Harold Shipman, who used his clinic not to save lives, but to take lives. In a small town named Hyde in England, where only 30,000 people live, he continued serial killing right under everyone's nose for 27 years. Even after killing more than 250 people, no one suspected Dr. Harold Shipman, and probably never would have if he had not made a small mistake. What was the reason for killing people? Why was he not caught for so long? And what clue did the police find that exposed the murder that had been going on for years in a single moment? Once again, welcome in the videos of Informative World Watch viewers. Dr. Harold Shipman. Dr. Harold Shipman ran his clinic in Hyde, a small town near Manchester, England. The total population here was around 30,000. Of this, 3,000 were patients of Dr. Shipman. The doctor mostly targeted such patients who they lived alone and were very old, about whose death no one could even suspect. Dr. Shipman would give as much time as possible to those patients, and also he would go to their homes and listen to them to lighten the burden on their hearts and make them realize that, of course, they are alone, but Dr. Shipman is sitting to listen to them. Even some patients trusted Dr. Shipman so much that they even gave him the keys of their house. Because of his attitude, he has become quite famous in Hyde. This was because people used to think that Dr. Shipman treats the old people only through talk. But under the guise of all this, Dr. Shipman used to come out with questions about who is alone at what time, who has how much wealth and how much property, who is in the house, who comes, and where do the relatives live. When Dr. Shipman felt satisfied, he used to kill his patients by giving them an overdose of medicine. Now, because those patients were already more than 80 years old, no one would even suspect their death. This trend continued for years. Let alone getting caught, no one even suspected him until he himself made a mistake. Dr. Shipman started his career 70 kilometers away from Hyde, a town called Pontefract, where he used to work in a hospital. Then in 1974, he left Pontefract and went to Todd Modern, where he took the position of general practitioner at Abraham and Merod Medical Center. While working here, he had to prescribe high quantity of pathone to some patients, which he actually had to use himself. Pathone is a painkiller, but it is quite addictive. Dr. Shipman was addicted to pathine, and he deliberately prescribed this medicine to his patients. He would give them a little, but would use more himself. But patient not even need any medicine. What happened was that the patients felt very good after taking this medicine, while in reality he did not know that he was taking drugs. This was the reason that the patients of the Dr. Shipman were attracted towards him despite not wanting to. After being caught, the hospital administration fired Dr. Shipman, and the matter reached the point of getting his license cancelled. But Dr. Shipman paid a fine of £600 and admitted himself to the rehabilitation center. This saved his license from being cancelled. After spending a short time in the rehab center, when everyone forgot him, he came to Hyde in 1977, where he became a general practitioner at Donnybrook Medical Center. In 1980, he practiced on the position of general practitioner. He continued to do so, and in the meantime, he neither gave up drug addiction, not miss any opportunity to murder old patients. But the frequency of these murders increased significantly from 1993. When he opened his own clinic in Hyde itself, this remained the case for the next several years. This continued, and no one doubted the actions of the doctor. For the first time in March 1998, Dr. Linda Reynolds, who used to work in another hospital, broke surgery, opposite to Dr. Shipman clinic, noticed a high death ratio among the patients of the Dr. Shipman, but expressed concern, saying that Dr. Shipman, which runs only a small clinic, has seen 16 of its patients die in the last 3 months, while during the same period, which has 3 times more patients than the Shipman clinic, Brook surgery has only 14 patients died. This suspicion that Dr. Shipman had died increased when it came to light that after the death of 16 of Dr. Shipman's patients, they were not buried but were burnt. Let us tell you here that most of the Christian people bury their loved ones after death. Only a few people decide to burn. Linda expressed her suspicion in the form of a report from the Manchester coroner, in which, along with all these details, it was also written that most of these 16 patients of Dr. Shipman are old women. All are found dead in their homes. And every time it cannot be a coincidence that at the time of death of most of these patients, the doctor was in these homes. Dr. Linda said that most of the deaths due to illness at home happen in bed. But the patients of Dr. Shipman died in a strange way while sitting on the chair and in well-worn clothes. And secondly, either Dr. Shipman was at his house at that time, or he went to the house for the first time and found the patient in a dead condition, which cannot be normal in any way. An investigation was also done on the basis of this report, but the police not found any concrete evidence was found against Shipman, and the investigation was closed after a month. When Dr. Harold Shipman's patients died, he himself used to sign Form B. Form B is the form that the doctor treating the patient used to sign, in which he writes the cause of death of the patient. But the issue was that Form C, which has to be signed by another doctor. In most of the cases, Form C signed by Dr. Shipman friends, or by people who do not suspect him. In this way, Shipman used to write fake information in the death certificates of his patients and send them for cremation with ease, and no one suspected anything. Because of this process, many deaths remained uninvestigated, and this was the reason he was able to hide his killing easily. After the investigation was closed, the Shipman also killed 3 more people, but the time to be caught was not far. The last victim of Dr. Shipman was 81-year-old Kathleen Grundy, former mayor of Hyde, who died on June 24, 1998. She died in her own home, and even here Dr. Shipman was the last person who saw Kathleen alive for the last time. He later signed the death certificate, and the cause of death was written as old age. Kathleen's daughter, Angela Woodruff, was herself a lawyer, who became suspicious about his mother's premature death when he found a will of his mother in which he had written his house in the name of Dr. Shipman. Dr. Shipman was very close to that family, and the fact that he got the house in the will did not become the basis of doubt. Rather, Angela was suspicious of the fact that her mother had 2 houses, whereas only one house is mentioned in the will, which shows that this will was written by a person who had no knowledge about the other house. It was Dr. Shipman. Angela Woodruff went to the police, who started the investigation again. Kathleen Grundy's body was exhumed and sent for autopsy. It was found that a lot of traces of diamorphine, means heroin, were found in her body. When the police asked Dr. Shipman, he said that Grundy was a heroin addict, and he had written this in his computer before treating her. Dr. Shipman had recently started making entries in the computerized medical journal, but they did not know that in that entry they had put the date before the death. But the last edit date of that file is automatically saved in the computer. When the police checked the entries in that computer, they came to know that the Dr. Shipman made this data entry after Caitlin's death. This evidence alone was not enough to arrest Dr. Shipman, but the police also found the typewriter using which the false will was written. It turned out that some characters were missing in Shipman's typewriter, and the same characters were also missing in Grundy's will. 7th September 1998. The police arrested Hyde's well-known Dr. Harold Shipman. When this matter came to light, those people also came forward whose loved ones had been killed by the Shipman. People had suspicions but could not raise their voice in front of the city's well-known doctor. Other patients were also investigated who had died some time ago at the hands of the Dr. Shipman. A special pattern was seen in all these cases, in which a fatal dose of diamorphine was given to the patient, and he himself signed the death certificate, and the cause of death was old age. Shipman itself used to write the advice of cremation so that all the evidence gets destroyed after burning. During the Shipman inquiry, The cases of all the patients who had died in the care of Shipman were revisited. The inquiry team took all the documents, death certificates, and medical records were investigated, which were handled by the Shipman. Apart from this, the families of those people whose relatives were Shipman were also interviewed, and after taking out some bodies, their forensic post-mortem was also done. This process was very detailed, and during this it was revealed that the Shipman, to a strunerd, he has murdered 218 patients from 1975 till he was caught. This is a confirmed number, but due to lack of evidence in many cases, he has not been confirmed. It is estimated that this number could be as high as 260. In court, Dr. Shipman was sentenced to death 15 times for 15 murders. That is, he will not be released from prison as long as he is alive. But in 2004, he hanging himself by tying a bedsheet to the bars. After his death, one of his jailmates had said that Shipman had told him surprisingly he murdered not 260, but 508. But the real reason for committing so many murders has not been revealed till date. Some people call it psycho, some think it is a way of earning money, and some people also understand the impact of the death of Shipman's mother because his mother, who was a cancer patient, used him as a painkiller. Morphine was given on a regular basis. Experts believe that perhaps Shipman wanted to see his patients dying by giving them similar morphine. We hope that you will subscribe and share this video of informative World Watch TV as well. I would like to thank you very much for your loving comments. See you in the next great video.